Okay, so good morning. Yes, let's start this conversation off with funny faces. Maybe I should get my Groucho Marx glasses.
The funny face was because it like roared. You know how sometimes
Oh,
the speaker
yeah.
does that roary sound?
Oh,
Yeah,
you
that's why I
said
went, what was?
your speaker does that. No, I just had a computer speaker, just the built-in speaker, which isn't good enough, by the way, because the volume doesn't get very high, but hey, I'll live with it. So yeah, no. And I was, yeah, well, it doesn't matter what I was thinking earlier about doing this Zoom call, and if anybody watched it, and I don't know, where we're going to go. I don't know where we're going to go. And I was thinking about, because I've been talking about the shadow. I mean, that's been on my mind. Hello. And shining the light on the shadow. And I was just kind of thinking about how much I would share a conversation that's being recorded compared to what I share with you when we just have our conversations. Because I'm very comfortable going into the depths, with you. And it just helps so much, first of all, to open up to that and to release it and to and in a sense forgive it and recognize that there's nothing to be, as Course in Miracles teaches, you get to the point where you say, oh, there's nothing to forgive. I never did anything wrong. But having that objective ear, just listening with no judgment, it helps me connect to that lack of judgment towards myself.
Yeah, because I think we're so programmed to behave a certain way, and this is how good people act. And then what happens is we end up denying aspects of ourselves because they're unlovable, not really unlovable, but we've been taught they're unlovable, and we're afraid of rejection and that disapproving look. And so we end up hiding certain aspects or denying them so that we can be liked. And this turns into like codependency, but also that's what makes the shadow, is when we deny it. Oh, I would never do that. I would never be as horrible as what's come up, like Bill Gates or Hitler, our favorite people to hate. I would never be like that. Well, maybe in a past life or something, but not now. And so it becomes a shadow because it's hidden from the light of awareness, of this awareness is the unconditional present observation with curiosity, the unconditional. And when we are in the light of who we really are, which is unconditional, this doesn't have to hide in the shadows. And so I call it rigorous self-accountability, but not accountability as in shame on you, you shouldn't be that. But oh my goodness, look what I've been doing that I didn't even know I was doing because I was so busy pretending I wasn't, so that I didn't have to face these fears of being unlovable or people not liking me or being judged and condemned. God forbid that I would do anything as horrible as wish someone might get sick so I could be right about something. And and when that comes up, it's almost laughable.
It is. And this ties in exactly with what you're saying. It's a conversation we had before, and I want to go over it again because it was so eye-opening for me. Oh my, when you said we're doing things and we don't even know we're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And that is the conversation I had with you about my stepsister, who is always nice, being nice. And I see that as being manipulative, not overtly, but subconsciously, not even knowing it, right? Not even knowing it. And so I shared with you that I had gone down to Bisbee, and I was trying to remember, why was I going to Bisbee for just a couple days? Because that's like 600 miles away, right? And it was, oh yeah, that was before I had a new dentist, and I was going down there so I could go over to Mexico to get my teeth cleaned. And I love visiting people in Arizona. So, but whatever. So that's that craziness. But that's why it was kind of a short trip. And I just needed someplace to stay for a couple of days. And she asked me, well, what do you want to, what food do you want me to buy? What do you want? And I said, don't buy anything. I'll figure it out when I get there. I don't want you to, just don't do that. But I didn't tell her why. I didn't give her the background. I just said, please don't do anything. Because in my mind, I'm going to go to the BBC. I'm going to go to Santiago's Mexican restaurant. I'm going to, these places that are in Bisbee. So I'm not thinking about, well, I want to have a lot of food in the fridge. But I don't tell her that. I just said, please don't buy anything. So when I arrived, she showed me, and she was so proud. Oh, look, I know you like salads. So I bought all these vegetables and cut them all up. So we got cauliflower, we got broccoli, we got zucchini, she bought the tomatoes, she bought the onions, she bought the just the refrigerator was full of this stuff. And I, instead of being authentic, kindly authentic, but authentic, went, oh, okay. And in my mind, I'm thinking, swear, cuss word, cuss word, cuss word. Why did you do that? I asked you, this is a story. I asked you not to do that, but you went ahead. You had to be nice. And so when I shared with you,
isn't it funny
that so instead I responded with nice. And then you informed me that I was being manipulative. I'm like, holy cow, no, wait a minute, no, she's the one that's manipulative. If she had just listened to my request and not played nice, but the fact is, I was, by not being authentic. And like you said, I could have just said, oh, that's so nice, but I want to go out for dinner tonight. And like I said, just kindly, and not put her down, and not say, and not judge her for it, and not make her wrong, because I made her wrong. I made her wrong for her patterns. We'll say her patterns, right? That is how she copes with life. I mean, but I made her wrong for her actions, and she wasn't wrong. She was just being her. She was just being her.
Yeah. So what happens is we accuse other people of doing what we're doing. This is projection. When something's in the shadow, we project. And that's why certain people annoy us, because we're doing that on a place that we can't see. So rather than seeing her as being generous and how thoughtful, and so we can't see the gifts that are around us, because instead of seeing, oh, how thoughtful, when I'm true to myself, people can be thoughtful, and then I can say yes or no to it, and it doesn't matter, because, oh, you're so thoughtful, but I'm still going out to dinner. So there's an authenticity. But the patterns are, so we don't even know what's going on over there. Like, there's nobody over there. It's all here. So I don't know what her patterns are or her anything are. It's not, if I go over there and try to figure them out, that's just me again. And so I just see generosity. When all I see is generosity and authenticity over here, then that means I'm being generous and authentic, because I'm seeing what I am. So it's like, I'm upset and now I have to control my behavior, and it's your fault. It's your fault. If you weren't doing that thing you do, that we want to label it, I wouldn't have to control my behavior to keep you from being upset and rejecting me. So shame on you. It's your fault that I have to manipulate your behavior with my behavior. It's so funny how we turn it around, right?
Yeah, without even seeing it. And what really, what really cracks me up is my brain works pretty well, right? I'm pretty intelligent, and I do notice some things, but boy, I sure don't notice myself. Well,
This turnaround is like the opposite of how I think society's been programmed. nice people, good people. Oh, you don't want to upset people. Oh, somebody gives to you, you have to take it. Otherwise you're not being a good receiver, and all this certain behavior to keep over there calm and stable and happy. Let me keep you happy. Let me keep you stable. I got to do whatever I can do to keep you not upset. And so I'm moving around my behavior inauthentically to control what I think is going on over there. And that's manipulation. So whenever I'm upset at someone, I'm really upset at me.
Exactly.
For being inauthentic. And sometimes, and if I'm scared to be authentic, but that's okay. We've been taught that if I tell the truth, or I've been taught, and I think a lot of people, if I told the truth and you didn't like it, then I would be selfish, unappreciative, anything that's unlovable and rejectable. Oh, I'm not going to have you over again. I'll never shop for you again. So then I'll be punished. And so it was safer just to control my behavior to keep things over there from backlashing on me. And we were talking in our other video about the free fall of natural conversation. There's just a free fall of trusting. I call it the kaleidoscope of life. We never know what's going to happen next. And living in the unknown of this free fall of being alive is not how we've been programmed. I don't know what's going to come next, and it's exciting. And now I'm present. So I say something, you say something, what shows up next for me to say, what shows up next. And usually that would just all go to hell. But the reason it would do that would because we would be guarding and protecting rather than staying active and present in the free fall of being authentic in kindness. There would be offended and now attacked. And then offended, and it would be like that way, instead guarding, everybody playing chess. And it can get uncomfortable being in a free fall because now we're exposing vulnerable, authentic feelings, including being offended and being upset. She could have gotten very upset with you for going to dinner after she bought all those groceries. And then what would you have done?
Right. And then that would have given me an opportunity to make a choice of asking, would you prefer that I leave the house, and for sure authentically sharing that I had no intention of upsetting her. That was not my intent.
And even assuming, because the mind, coming out of survival, this old reality we've lived in, assumes worst case scenario, assumes she's going to get upset, and then strategizing on how I will respond to this upset. And there is a certain level of security in that, but the free fall doesn't even think. It's just present, present, present. Yeah, and not even, do you want me to go home? It's like, I'm not comfortable right now. I think I might go home. Like, it's always over here. There's nobody over there in a, you know what I'm saying, in a free fall.
I do, where it's, instead of saying, do you want me to go get a hotel, for me to tap in and say, and authentically say, I'm not comfortable hanging with you and this is assuming that she says, oh, you hurt my feelings, or starts crying, or whatever shows an indication of displeasure or upsetness, that I authentically claim what I am experiencing, and I am not comfortable hanging with you right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and depart your presence, and do XYZ or whatever, and just hold myself accountable for what I'm going to do in this situation, instead of asking the other person, what do you want me to do? Am I understanding what you're communicating?
We've been taught to always consider everybody else. And I'm not saying, we are to be calloused and go to, but this overly considering everyone else, it's, what do I need to take care of myself? I won't be angry at other people anymore. So if I say it, wow, I'm really being triggered by this. I'm not sure, I'm not comfortable. I'm going to go stay in a hotel tonight while I sort through this. It's self-accountability of me taking care of me then it's nobody's fault for anything. And when I'm always doing what takes care of me, because I'm aware of how I'm being affected and I'm never blaming anyone. Now, they could still get triggered. They could still feel blame. They could still project, but that's not any of my business other than be present at the space I can be at in this moment. Because I used to think, well, yeah, I feel this way now, but I might not feel that way in an hour. And then I would try to do the thing I might feel in an hour while I was just stepping over myself right now. I mean, it could be something simple as, I'm really getting triggered. I might go stay in a hotel tonight. And she goes, oh, and then she actually listens, and then I end up staying. But we don't know if we're not free falling. If we're not, we don't know what's going to happen next. It could turn on a dime in 3 minutes, or we don't know. And this living in this unknown is the new intimacy with myself, engaging with other. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was, what was it you told me yesterday about form of communication where you're saying, I'm I don't know if these are the words, I'm making up this story that you're upset at what I just said. Is that the way you put it?
Yeah, because I'm see, because nothing's real and we make up our realities. And so I'm making up that you're upset with me. Is that true? Are you upset with me? And they're either going to say yes or no, they're going to tell the truth, or they're going to lie. So if they're like, oh no, I'm not upset with you. Oh, wow. You know, I'm still feeling uncomfortable then, you know, instead of calling them a liar, you know, it's like, wow, you're not upset with me. Isn't that interesting? Well, I'm feeling really uncomfortable, so I'm going to go sort that out. And because it doesn't matter if they're upset with me. What matters is what's going on in me about them, about the story I'm telling that they're upset. And they might be lying about it. I don't know. But see, that's when it, again, nobody's over there. It stops being over there. You know? So if I'm still doubting that they're telling the truth, and I'm still feeling that stirring of energy in my body, and the commentary of, I'm making up that you're upset with me, then it switches. Instead of you're a liar, yes, you are, and we got to be right, it switches. If they say, no, they're not, that I'm still feeling that I'm like, wow, I am having the experience of being very uncomfortable. And I need to go process that rather than, oh, let me step over it. She said she's not upset. Let me slap on happy and pretend everything's fine. But yeah. So anyway, the conversation, there's still a process after that, but the conversation of when you can trust someone and you can say, wow, you know, I'm making up that blah, 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 blah. And then is it true? You know, I'm making up, I'm talking too much. Do you think I am? You know, is that your experience as well? And it's not to be a codependent invalidation. It's just sort of like, I don't know, reality checks. There is no rule to conversation, is there?
No. And I really like that, just that's a self accountability again, and being aware of, and from having a lot of conversations with you, and you'll even say, I'm chatty. I'll just chat, and you can go on. And so that self-realization of, I talk a lot, and so, oh, I'm making up the story that I'm talking too much, or I'm taking over the conversation. Is that the truth? And then people can say, actually, I'm really enjoying what you're having to say. Or someone might say, well, yeah, I kind of wanted to say something, and I wasn't sure when I could step in and say it. And so you leave it open. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because no judgment on either one.
No judgment.
Because I can be it all. I can be chatty and somebody says yes, and I can be chatty and they say, oh no, go ahead. And this is the cool thing about learning that there's nothing to be. There's no right way to be. And so if I'm sensing something and it comes out my mouth and then I get a check, And then there's no, oh yeah, I want to get a word in edgewise. Do you mind? And I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, go for it. And because there's no wrong way to be. And this is the unconditional. This is when stuff of the wrong ways to be come out in the shadow, like come out of the shadow into the light of just unconditional curiosity. Like when I was saying that before, when all of this stuff was going on, and I was actually hoping people will get sick and start dying like flies in the fall so that I could be right about, indignantly right about my position and how wrong they were and how they should have listened to me, and shame on them, and see, I told you so. And to get that rigorous peek under the carpet and that rigorous self-honesty of looking at that and going, wow, that's Hitler. You know, I'm okay being Hitler, because I'm like, I'm so excited to see it. I'm so excited to see it. And I'm like, wow, that means I get to let it go. So there's no shame involved when the shadows can come out without judgment. It's so freeing. And then if I can sit in mine, I can sit in yours. It's the same stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Like we were talking about, you know, confession being good for the soul. And it's not a question of, I've done wrong and please forgive me. It's, oh, look at these thoughts I've had, and just being met with love. So confession in that way, that being open, which I really like about our conversations, because when I sit with my thoughts by myself, my good old ego mind comes in and goes, judge it, judge it, judge it. When I share it with you, you know, you might go, I can top that one, and then we can laugh at it. But you understand, I mean, I don't know if you could top my deepest, darkest stuff I've done, but that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. But so when I can share it with another person who's objective, then it gives me, I don't want to say it gives me permission, but it makes it easier for me to then be objective. You know what I mean?
And in a way,
reinforce.
yeah, in a way, it does give permission. In a way, we give each other permission. Not that we need it, but if I'm in a room full of people who applaud me for being authentic versus a room full of people who shame me for being authentic, in a way, yeah, I could go ahead and fight through that shame-filled room because it's my shame, it's not theirs. There's nobody out there. So they're just showing me my own shame. And talk about some major deep healing. Because once I'm not ashamed anymore, they could be pointing fingers at me all day. And I'm like, oh, they're very living in shame. And they're, you know, because I can then see the projection rather than owning it. Because it's what we were talking about with that video. It's our shame. And it's an honor for me to be able to release that back into source and see that it holds no weight instead of being a victim to it. And it doesn't mean I'm going to go purposely walk into a room where people are pointing at me, but I believe in time that won't even faze me. I won't even notice, you know, when that belief in shame, because every reality is just a thought and a belief.
That's right.
That belief in shame is totally healed. I won't even notice. I won't even notice because there's nobody over there. There's just people doing what they're doing.
Yeah. I know. I'm reminded of, and this goes back to one of the 4 agreements, don't take anything personally, but this was back before that book was written. Wayne Dyer, in his book that I just love, Your Sacred Self, the one spiritual book I've read twice, that, and you know, I always get something different, something new. But he was quoting Carlos Castaneda in the teachings of Don Juan in this story that he told. And he said Carlos was being tracked by a jaguar for 3 days. And so Don Juan asked him, well, were you offended by the jaguar? And he goes, no, he was just doing what jaguars do. And he goes, And people just do what people do. Same thing, don't take anything personally. That just simple little story, it's a reminder to myself to come back to people are just doing what people do.
Yeah, and it's just not personal. I was sharing with you, I used to groom dogs, and when I was young in my 20s, I preferred animals over people because I didn't understand people. Animals to me were real, transparent. If you got a dog in a cage that was cage shy, they would bite if you reached in because they were cage shy, not because they hated me and not because I'd done something unacceptable and they were disapproving and so they were punishing me. They were just cage shy. You know, if a dog was submissive peeing, they're just submissive peeing. I didn't hurt its feelings. That's just the way they do. But they were so transparent. But then when I would get on people, I didn't like people because I didn't understand people, not because anything was wrong with people. They were just doing what they were doing, but I was projecting meaning out of my own insecurities and therefore had a very hard time being around people. And when I realized that people are just another form of animal, they're just like dogs. They're just like dogs. If somebody has been wounded, they're going to lash out and bite just like a cage shy dog. If somebody has gone through traumatic experiences and they have very low self-esteem, they're going to be extremely submissive, like a submissive peeing dog. And really submissive people used to really annoy me. It's like, stop that and stand up, open the door. Don't just stand there and wait. And, that just like a little peeing dog, that used to really annoy me. But that was because I was submissive like that. When I would get around angry people, I would start controlling my behavior and walking on eggshells so they didn't get mad at me. I was just like this person at work that she'd sat at the door and can I come in? And then it's like, stand up and open the door, and that's me. So my intolerance of her was a shadow of myself that I hadn't really addressed. And they're just like dogs. And then I started just really progressively loving people because they are just doing what they're doing because of what they're thinking and believing. And I only make it about me when my trauma is revealed through it, through the mirror of that.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm really grateful for in our conversations is, the concept of overthinking, right?
Yeah.
Well, this morning after our recent conversation, I was thinking about, I'm starting to think any thinking is overthinking.
Absolutely.
Because I was reflecting on this interaction I had with someone, and I was a little confused. I wasn't really understanding what they were saying or whatever. There was confusion. So I started thinking about it, analyzing it and looking at it. And of course, the ego mind is going, look to be upset. Oh, this is about you. Oh, this is, and I totally forgot to not take anything personally. And that they were just, sometimes when you say people are talking, they're just talking to themselves, or they're talking about, and so being able to have a conversation with another person about an objective look, and just, and I relayed what happened, and you looked and you said, oh, well, you know what? Da 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 da. It just looks like da 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 da. So totally not the way I was personally taking it and making myself small and making myself wrong. And it just, and you didn't have to go, oh, you don't have to think that way, Candace. Really, you're what, like mom would do. Oh, Candy, you're really pretty. It's like, that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear, Candy, I love you so much and you light up my life, as a little girl. But just your objective observation of it, and it just got me out of that that overthinking and misanalyzing. Anytime I analyze something, it's not helpful. It's not helpful for me to analyze anything, because I am not some scientific researcher that needs to analyze something and then I'm going to create a cure for cancer. So let's analyze this. You know, that's what I'm analyzing is just words and thoughts.
Yeah. I tell people, does my speaker roar to you, or can you hear it roaring when I go to
I
talk?
hear it
It's
all.
just
Doesn't record. It
that
doesn't.
thing. So anyway, I tell people I'm losing my mind, and I love it. I love it. Losing because I was extremely over analytical, and intelligence was a high praiseworthy thing in my family. And so losing my mind and I still catch myself in that analyze loop, and then oh, whoa, wait, because conversations, free fall of conversations, there's no analyzing, there's checking and speaking and checking and speaking. It's transparent and authentic and intimate, as in into me, see intimacy, right? See into me. And it's always here. It's always here. It's, oh, well, you're this. Let me analyze you. No, if I'm analyzing you, then I'm making crap up. So yeah, losing my mind, any analyzing, the less I think there's no, like even now in this conversation, there's no thinking going on. You would think so because my mouth is moving, but there's no thinking. I'm present with you, and then whatever words show up come out my mouth. And you'll be saying, remember this conversation we had yesterday? No, I don't. Because I've lost my mind. I mean, if I go back and I really think really hard, but why? Because the information, as soon as you start talking in the information, then the frequency or whatever of that conversation is happening right now, and then the words are coming out in the now. I couldn't remember what I told you yesterday or the day before, sometimes even an hour before, and there's freedom in this. And it's not the same as like dementia or Alzheimer's. It's just that there's no effort in trying to dredge up the past. And all analyzing is comparing a possible future to the past to strategize. And it's just becoming unnecessary to do that. Everything is happening right now in the spontaneity of authentic transparency. There's no need to analyze.
You know, I am reminded of a conversation I had with my minister back when in Virginia, because somebody had asked me something about, hey, I'm thinking about forming a partnership with this other attorney, and I know you worked under, and what do you think? And what I wanted to tell him was run for the hills. But I didn't, I didn't. But I can't recall how I sidestepped even giving an answer, but I called my minister, said, I need to talk to you about this. Because I experienced working for her with a different partnership. And of course, there were a lot of experiences and things I observed. And I was like, do I warn him? And so I'm telling her this. I said, I don't know how to answer him. It's like, I don't want to say, oh, she's absolutely wonderful. And what do I share? What do I share? And she told me, well, if you tell him how she behaved in the past, you're not allowing her the freedom that she might have changed. So you're like, there's this picture back here of 2 years ago. She might not be that way anymore. And so then I was relating to that when earlier when we were talking about the being nice thing. And I thought I was going to tell you, oh, but Jenny, I know she would get her feelings hurt, because in the past, when she gave me something that I literally couldn't, it's a piece of jewelry and I couldn't wear it because I have sensitivity to metal. And so I told her that. I mean, as kindly and sincerely, it was a beautiful piece. And I told her, it's so beautiful, and it's my colors and but I'll get welts and I can't wear it. And it hurt her feelings. So when we were talking about, and you said, well, Candace, you don't know what her response would have been if you'd been authentic. What did I do? I went to the past. I'm thinking, oh, yes, I do, because she got hurt in the past. See what I mean? I mean, there's still
Yeah.
that kind of thinking of not allowing people the freedom where they may have changed. Whatever comes up, comes up. But here's my excuse that I couldn't be authentic because I mean, see what the ego just did to me? I mean, and I'm the victim and the ego's the perpetrator. But that
And it's so the thing is, the pattern is deeper, is so deep in being authentic. It's not, yeah, there's one level where, yeah, she got upset in the past and she's probably going to get upset again. Yeah, maybe not. Let's go ahead, like you said, open up a clearing of a new now every time I engage, right? But in order to be able to do that, can you be okay with her being upset? Like it's like her upset is not what I think it means. It's just, that's just what she does or doesn't do. And they're both okay. So there won't be any maneuvering to keep her from getting upset, because she'll either respond that way and be upset, or she'll respond this way and not be upset, or maybe a third way I don't even know about, and they're all okay. And when they're all okay, I can be in the unknown because it's not going to matter. So I can just be in the smorgasbord of unknown of what might show up. But if I have her being upset as the category that's not allowed, then I'll be spending my moment trying to avoid that future.
exactly.
And as far as, what was coming up for me when you were talking about, should you tell the truth about this person? And one is, yeah, leaving what your minister said, leaving open the door for a new possibility. And the other one is talk about me again, which I obviously love to do, but talk about me again, something I was taught not to do as a child, but in accountability. Wow. Like somebody asked me about a guy that I dated 5 years ago that I did not have a fun time with. How is he? I'll say, wow, I mean, in a perfect world, not that I'm do this every time. This is the goal, right? I do project and do all that stuff like regular people. But my goal would be, if they really said, what do you think? And I could say, well, I learned so much. I learned how victim mentality I was, how codependent I was, how I controlled my behavior to manipulate his emotional moods. And I learned so much from that relationship. And I guess you should trust your gut, because that's really the truth. Anything else I say, I was telling somebody, a friend of mine, that, if I was to date somebody, one of the deal breakers is somebody who bashes their ex. Because, hey, they bash their ex, I just the next ex to bash, right? Because that's the pattern. But self-accountability. Why'd you guys break up? Why'd you date in the first place? What happened? And somebody who's self-accountable says, wow, there was a dynamic there that we were two sides of the same coin, and we drew each other in perfect compatibility. I was a victim, so I had to, of course, make him a perpetrator, because victims need perpetrators. And I was so codependent because everything revolved around what he needed, and I didn't exist. So of course I would date someone like that. That was perfect. And as a matter of fact, if you dated him, I don't know what would show up. I guess whatever shows up in your compatibility or not. Because the dynamic's going to be different depending on the people's dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know who that person is. I only know who they were with me.
That's right. That's right. That is so profound. That is so profound. And that's interesting. I'm reminded of when I lived in Bisbee, and there's a woman I know or met where I worked. Her name was Carol. And so we hit it off and stuff. And then there's this other woman I met named Nico. We hit it off. Well, I observed Nico with Carol, and Nico doing some kind of, I don't know, demeaning, or I don't want to say belittling, but a behavior that I wouldn't want Nico to do to me, that I wouldn't want that. Nico never did that to me. And I would never do that to Carol. So Carol and Nico had a certain dynamic, certain, I look at it as neuroses playing out, but whatever name you want to put on it, certain things playing out, certain patterns. And with Carol and me, it was different patterns. And with Nico and me, it was different patterns, because it's about me. And yeah.
It's energetic dynamic. So if I go around demanding respect, but I don't respect myself, I am emitting a frequency of don't respect me. And then wondering why I'm not getting respected. Because when I respect myself, I don't have to set boundaries and insist, and you have to respect me and get, no, it's I emit respect. And so of course, everything in my circle respects, and things that don't respect kind of like don't come around, because it's an uncomfortable, incompatible frequency. So,
or if it comes around, it leaves quickly. It bounces off. It just, yeah.
There's
It
no,
leaves quickly.
and like the video I was telling you about, the shared pain, it doesn't belong to anyone. This frequency of victim, martyr, perpetrator, it's a shared pain, and we swap, because sometimes I'm the perpetrator and to the victim, martyr, and so it's a shared pain, and it stops becoming a victim to these things. Like this video I was sharing with you earlier, it becomes a shared experience that gets to be released back to source, back to the light, when it's seen through, that there are no victim, perpetrators, just a shared pain. And when it's awakened in the light, it no longer has an effect. So if somebody was to come up and be disrespectful, if I'm respecting myself, I'm not even going to see it that way. I might just see sadness, a shared pain, something that I've experienced. I get it. And it'll either transform or it'll move away to go feed on something else, because it's not finished yet.
Right.
Whatever, but it's shared. It doesn't belong to anyone, any of this energy, these darker, when they come out from the shadow and they're seen and unconditionally witnessed here, then they can be unconditionally witnessed there. And I may be the one to walk out of the room. There's no, Saint Jenny, Jesus be nice and stay in the room. Oh, you can overcome this, your self-love and self-respect, because that's what I used to do, be where I wasn't, in the name of higher frequency, rather than this is what I'm feeling in the moment. If I'm uncomfortable enough, I'll remove myself and process it. But it still doesn't belong to anyone. It's just energies playing badminton with each other wherever the wounds are, so that we can have the honor of releasing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally new way of looking at it. And yeah. So, well, I think I don't want to make this video too long, and I didn't notice what time it was when I started. I know it was after 9 o'clock, because I was running an errand. When you get things happen as they happen, and they always happen perfectly. But one of the things that that occurred to me that I would share with you is that Thursday morning on the call with the elders, it was a small group, and Marcia said she really liked what I shared, and that there's a Science of Mind church in Yucca Valley that doesn't have a minister, and they're always looking for people to give talks, and she thinks I'd be really good at giving a talk, and which I have done before, and I'm comfortable with that. But I was thinking about our conversations, and I'm thinking about how in my future, in my new earth and new everything, it's going to be more about participation with each other, instead of, well, I'm going to go to a church and somebody's going to give a talk and then I'll be inspired, or not, depending upon the talk. but where it's people interacting and being authentic, because I find that so inspiring and uplifting. Because I can go on YouTube and I love watching the videos on YouTube. I had some come up this morning, a guy who's another Course in Miracles student, and I watched 2 of them, and they were just, they were just right on for what I'm wanting to hear and needing reminders about. And so that's available all the time. But what I think in my perfect future, these kind of conversations are available all the time. And so I was thinking about that. But she did say, hey, it might be on Zoom. And then I'd be like, well, I'd love to get people engaged on Zoom instead of, oh, I'll give a 20-minute talk and you guys listen, that to bring people in to.
And this is what I love too, speaking and roaring at me. This is what I love too, is that's why I hesitate when I start to talk, because the speaker's like, ugh. Anyway, this is what I love about these intimate banters. And I was starting to do some videos on my own, and the energy, if I meditate and then I do them and I just go ahead and the information coming through the meditation, but these banters, not banters, but you know what I mean, the group dynamic where it's shared wisdoms. And I find what happens is it goes like this. The energies go like that. And although a talk is nice for 20 minutes, but it's not the same. When I'm speaking to people, I can engage even if they don't get to open their mouth. I can engage personally, but to have them be able to raise their hand or say something, but better yet is maybe a small group after the talk. If you set up, if it's not too far away, set up a small group in the little meeting room where people can come and do live like we do on Zoom, but sit in a circle and do these shared experiences of enlightenment, because the energy builds and then the energy builds and then the energy builds, because we can go, ooh, fear, and go down the tunnel, or we can go, oh, authentic and transparent. Yes. And over here, and I saw this, and these shared conversations are so dynamic and so fun when people are of the same vibrational dynamic, or at least close,
Yeah.
we can build on each other.
Exactly. And I'll tell you what, I like your idea, but I'd like to merge the two. And that is that, assuming it's on Zoom. And even if it were in person, whether it's on person or Zoom, that as I'm talking, or as the speaker, whoever it is talking, that if it sparks something in you, that you can raise your hand. So it's not no, I have to finish my 20 minutes first. No, my 20 minutes, and then we'll go sit and talk. That it's spontaneous, so that I can be ready to, I can be chatty. I can be like you, be chatty. I can go on about this stuff that I love and channel it, so to speak. But if it sparks something where somebody wants to share, and even if it's something that's like difficult, oh my gosh, I'm reminded of the time that I yelled at my mom, and I've been carrying that guilt, and it could be like that, or it could be, oh wow, I love it could be anything, whatever is in the moment. Just like our free fall conversations, what's in the moment, what's coming forward, that people can raise their hand and then share what that is. And so it can be either or. It can be one person talking for 20 minutes, or it could be people jumping in, however the energy flows and whatever comes up.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what comes to my attention too is the intention of the talk, because people can go different places, And if they're in a fear vibration and that's not addressed, it can start the conversation going in that direction. I've been on some where they would go that way, and which is fine. But if the intention is to lift and break those patterns of fear cycling, analyzing fear cycling, and then gathering agreement, and then strengthening that reality, because what we're focusing on and giving attention to, we're building and solidifying, right? So when we see the conversation starting to go this way and starting to solidify, and then we can come somehow the intent to bring it back. And what Byron Katie used to do, which I just loved, is people would come to her meeting knowing that it was about self-realization, realizing all aspects of the self. And so when they would tell their story, and because she knew nothing was true, it seems true, it's believed into a truth, it's gathered agreement until it solidifies into an experienced reality that is true for that person. But on the level of source, nothing's true. And so she would say, when someone would say, oh, the big bad wolf, he blew the house down and it was really horrible, and the piggies were running and you know, some of the stories that we hear and are so, the sky is falling, oh my goodness, and it's so real, and they're in so much pain and they're so afraid. And she would just look with compassion, oh honey, is it true? Is it true? Are you sure it's true? How do you feel when you believe that thought? What are the experiences in your body? How do you treat other people when you believe that thought? Can you see a reason to give it up? And who would you be without that thought? And turning it back around with compassion and understanding for the reality that this person is experiencing. Like a bad dream, like a bad dream.
Like a bad dream. What a, how, on that beautiful note, to bring our call to a close. And, you know, and we're going to post this again and we're going to see if anybody watches or doesn't. And yeah, so I didn't go deep and dark. You know, maybe I'll save that for the Sunday call. for the Sunday B&L call. Whoa, they better get ready. God knows what
an example of light and example of light and truth. When we shine our darkness without shame,
yeah,
we're an example of light and truth, and we give permission for others to do the same.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's, you know, I think it would be absolutely marvelous when everyone can have conversations like this.
It's so
and shining the light and being the light, right? So thank you. Mwah! Love you. And I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Hey, bye.
Bye.
Recording.